Guess so. See if I can hit all four in a row here. There we go. Good evening, everyone. Hi. Welcome to the Coptic Center and our Sunday evening experience as we gather in light, love, universal truth, and our ongoing quest towards self-mastery. And we do it with a little bit of musical twist tonight and words, and more with Amy on that in just a moment. And thank you for joining us tonight. Beautiful Sunday afternoon, and those listening around the world at the Coptic Center on YouTube, thanks for tuning in today and checking us out. And you're more than welcome to join us 6 p.m. Sunday nights here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, if you'd like as well. We'd welcome that. Announcements as always for you. We have the Message 6th Sensory Ability Development Group. That's the first Tuesday of the month through this month of May now, through August, 7 to 9 p.m. with Rosemary. $5 suggested donation for that. Upcoming workshops, we do have Michael Joy Stauffer on the way for you for the month of May now that a new month is upon us. Symphony of Peace, Prayers, Coptic Sunday Worship on the way for you. And Michael, would you like to share a little bit about that instead of me just reading the comments of your workshop?
Yeah, it's going to be fun because everybody's going to be involved. There's going to be some music and singing that can kind of be like a chant. It can turn into like a meditative experience.
Thank you.
It says on the flyer that whenever we pray for peace, especially, particularly that prayer that's on the peace pole, that we have a deeper connection with humanity and we are causing brilliant waves of light to ripple through the universe. I'm looking for some bumper stickers. I hope I can find some where to have them made, because just think about it. You know, you mindlessly read bumper stickers and, but just spread it, have everybody rippling waves of light through the universe. Anyway, it'll be fun. And the flags represent the people of the countries that the flags represent, so everyone will be here.
Thanks, Michael. It'll be weather permitting outside by the Peace Pole, I think you mentioned a few weeks ago. Now that I remember bits and pieces of your upcoming workshop. Once a month, we do that here on Sunday nights now, and a little bit different from the lecture format, which we'll enjoy again tonight with Amy. We have a kirtan once a month here, and that's a vegetarian potluck at 6:30. The kirtan's at 7:30. That's May 26th is the next event of chanting, and Prem and the group from Mother's Trust will be part of that as we enjoy that Sunday at 26th of May here at the Coptic Center. I think that's it for announcements at the moment here. Welcome back, John and Nancy from the Southern Conference. I'm sure it was another rewarding experience. And volunteers that went down there. Tom, did you go down? Amy, did you go down to? Yeah, thank you for doing that for the organization and caravanning down south, and those that went with you. I appreciate your volunteering for that event, and volunteers welcome too for our fall lecture conference coming up here at the center. More details on that on the way for you in the weeks and months ahead as well. So that's about it for the moment. As always, please stand if you could, and let us share the St. Francis of Assisi prayer for peace as we get more into the sacred moment of tonight. That's on the blue tab section of page 4. Blue tab section of page 4. And let us share that great prayer. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Good Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. May that be so. Please remain standing if you could, and let's open up our vocal cords a little bit. We'll get you singing faster down the road tonight, so stay tuned for that. Our thoughts or prayers is on the yellow tab section on page 5. Yellow tab, page 5. us begin. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Be careful what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. My words are prayers, and I am always praying. My words are prayers. I'm careful what I'm saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Always. My life's a prayer. I'm always saying, my life's a prayer. I'm careful what I'm doing. I choose a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. And so it is. We have Coptic teacher Amy Seekman on the way for you tonight, and she's back. It's been wonderful to have her present in the recent months, and going on over a year now, at least, that she's sharing her light, love, and wisdom here at the center. And advocate of Toastmasters, working on her presentation skills. She's done a wonderful job on that, and stretching her and spreading her wings a little bit, and stretching herself by singing tonight with a little bit of Mary Poppins. So if you can get your English accents together tonight, it'd be very helpful. I'm working on mine, but I happen to drift into Hamid Bey for some reason, so I'm not sure why. But we'll give it a shot with supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Look in your programs and get ready for that a little bit later on. But first, it's Amy, and change your vocabulary, change your mindset, change your life. She'll be presenting tonight, and a Coptic moment with Chad Jones as he presents Master Hamid Bey's teachings. Chad.
Hello. 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 How's everybody doing tonight? Well, that's good to know on this beautiful day. Yes. Well, for tonight's reading, I chose an excerpt from an article of Hamid Bey's, one of his lessons, Meditation, the Key to All Good. Now, throughout many of the great and wonderful points he made about the importance of meditation, I'm going to make light of 4 of those points I thought were the primary emphasis of the article. Love, light, peace, and truth. Now, through meditation and finding the unity in these 4 principles will lead us naturally to proper resolution, purpose, conduct, living, and proper perception. I'm going to touch base a little bit on the first 3. Love, light, and peace. Light is the basis of all vibration. It is the most ethereal element science can handle. It was the first created element, without which nothing could be created. Love is the greatest cohesive force in the world. It must, therefore, be in all things, as nothing could stay together without it. Peace is an inner calm, a calm which can come only with a knowledge of right living, or by putting into practice one's knowledge of spiritual truth. When we have attained light, love, and peace in all their perfection, we will experience perfect harmony. This is the ultimate goal of all mankind. How long it will take depends on understanding their full meaning, as well as practicing them in our everyday living. Now, to these attributes, I think it's essential to add another: truth. Truth is the proper knowledge of any subject. Living it, acting it, proving it. How else could we know what really works, right? By learning the simple truth and faithfully practicing it, it will attract other truths, and eventually all truth will be unfolded unto us. Truth can be divided into two classes: physical and spiritual. In the physical sense, truth is honesty. In the spiritual sense, truth is the law of God, a state of being. Until we have grounded ourselves in truth, we live in a transitory state of consciousness. Therefore, it is of vital importance that we learn to solve our problems so that we may harness our consciousness and liberate ourselves from limited conceptions. To reach this state of consciousness, we must first face facts. That is, bring to sharp focus all the factors making up our problems, so that we have full comprehension of what resolving it entails, and then acting accordingly through proper resolution, speech, conduct, living, and proper perception, or mindset, how we correctly perceive things. Proper resolution. Once we have perceived the truth, we will act upon it and endeavor to attain more of it. Proper speech, or the words we use to communicate. Disciplining ourselves so that at all times we practice discretion and never criticize or slander. With that, we create an inner harmony which flows out as a blessing to all humanity. Proper conduct. Let not your conduct be activated by likes and dislikes. Be guided by the higher law. The golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you, regardless of home concerns. Proper living. Live for the betterment of humanity, always desiring the good, seeking the good, and always endeavoring to spread peace and harmony. This will ensure spiritual growth. Proper perception. Now, I looked up the definition of perception. It read, organization, identification, and interpretation of sensory information in order to represent and understand the environment. Now, when I look at perception, I see perception of the ego, and I see true perception of truth. Perception of the ego, I liken it to us perceiving a happening in our life based on our own experiences leading up to that point, right? Now, when we go into a meditative state, setting ego aside and rising above mind, we connect to the higher self, our divine self, the super being that we are. And that's where true perception comes into play. We make that connection with our higher self and perceive what truth really is, beyond the perception of the ego. And this is what Hamid Bey says. No matter what the issue, perceive the Christ to the extent that the self does not enter into the picture. When all self has been laid aside, and we have learned the clear dividing line between truth and illusion, when we can let our light so shine before humanity that they shall see our good works and glorify our Father in heaven, then it is that we shall be manifesting God. All of these qualities need to be attained to the best of our ability. For as we grow in the consciousness of well-being and well-doing, our ability to still the mind to physical vibrations greatly increases. Thus, we enhance the power to meditate deeply. The deeper we meditate, the wider we can open the door to greater illumination. For it is then that we reach out through space or deep within ourselves and find God. Then it is that we come back to our earthly problems refreshed, renewed, and invigorated to the extent there is no doubt, no fear, only faith and love. Then it is we view our problems with inspiration and enthusiasm, for it is illumined by the light of truth. Resolve to meditate at least once, if possible twice, every day at your own convenience, for all meditation is the key to all good. That's all I got. Thank you.
I'm wired now. We had a big joke about Alan knows how to push my buttons, so we had to laugh. But thank you. Thank you, Chad. Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Looking forward to hearing your
All right. Thank you. And thank you all for coming tonight. I am always excited to be here and speak with this group because I feel that I receive messages from Spirit, and I want to give those messages out. And everyone here is of like mind, and a lot of you have the same thoughts that I have, and it's confirmation for me, and it'll be confirmation for you too, that what I talk about is of value and has something that can add to our lives. And Chad, I wanted to say thank you. Great job for picking that particular lesson. We had a mind meld type thing going on, as what typically happens. A lot of the words that you spoke and the things that you brought out from the lesson echo in what I'm saying here tonight in my talk. Things like viewing the world and viewing life from a physical perspective and a spiritual perspective. I have my own words for that, and I will talk a little bit more about that. But that is also what comes to my mind when I talk about changing our vocabulary, changing our mindset, and changing our life. And you mentioned all of those words in the lesson and brought that forward. So that to me is just another confirmation that the message that I receive is important and of value and something we can all use and learn in our life every day. And with that, I'm going to begin. And there are three things that I want to talk about tonight. The first is helping us to recognize the energy and the power within our words, and the words that we choose and the words that we use, and to recognize that there is energy, there is vibration, and there is power within the words that we use. The second point that I'll be making is talking about the difference and how that energy, the energy within words and our vocabulary, is different if you look at things from a humanistic view or if you look at things from a spiritual view, just as Hammond Bay had talked about. And then the third thing that I want to talk about is how we can actually harness that energy and that power that is within our words, and how we can use it to change our life and to change things in a positive and fruitful and beneficial manner. And I have some examples of how that works. And if anybody has heard me speak before, I have a newfound habit of creating words called backronyms. And those backronyms, I'll give you a few of those, and I've printed them out so you can take them with you. And those are examples of how there is energy and vibration and power within our words, and how our words are connected and associated in a way that is spiritual and possibly unknown to us. All right. Does that sound good? Are you with me? Yeah. Yay. You're ready? Pat? Pat's ready. Pat's always ready. Yay. Okay. So the first thought that I mentioned was that there is energy and power within our words, the words that we use and the words that we choose. Does anybody disagree with that? Do we all think that, know what I'm talking about, understand what I'm saying? If you think about it from the vocal point, from the physical and what we say, how many times have you been affected by somebody's words? Somebody says something to you and you either feel good or you feel bad or you feel overwhelmed or you feel something in between. So just that simple thing alone tells us that there's energy and that there's power within our words, and that we can use those words and use that energy in some way to actually influence someone else. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever had that happen to you? And the thing is, we tell ourselves, well, they said this and they made me feel bad. But it's not that they said it. It's that you allowed that to happen. You allowed the energy and that vibration that was carried with those words. You allowed that to happen. And that's important to note that difference. The other thing that comes to mind when we're talking about the energy and the power within words, has anybody had a numerology reading with John? Yeah? Yeah? So what happens when John does a numerology reading? You have numbers assigned to the letters, and you use the letters and the numbers, and that creates a profile number, but it is based off of the letters. And each letter is given a numerical value. And then when you look into what that actual number means, then they talk about the vibrational rate and how does that number vibrate. But it is still based off of the letters of your name, and each letter is assigned a number. So that is another example of how there is energy and vibration and power within our letters and within the words and the words that we create with those letters. So that's just another example of how there is energy and power within our words, the words we use and the words we choose. Tom, you have a question?
Does
Comment?
our IQ play into this? Numbers equated into power?
Our IQ, the question is, does our IQ fit into that? I am inclined to say yes, because to me our IQ is part of our mental state and how we process information and how we use information. And what I'll get to here, and I'll get to it now that you brought it up, is the vocabulary that we use and the words that we use. It's not only what we speak and what we say physically, but it's what we say to ourselves and what we use internally. And a portion of that is, and a question that I want to ask is, what do you say when you talk to yourself? We have a little chuckle, a few chuckles. What do you say when you talk to yourself? There's a great book that I read when I was in college or just after college. It's been out for a long time now, called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And it's very important. It's very powerful. For instance, do you tell yourself, say if you tripped over something, you're walking along and you stumble and you say, oh, well, that was stupid. It's like, what are you telling yourself by doing that? What are you saying to yourself? And what energy and what power and what vibration are you bringing to yourself when you say, well, that was stupid? I'm suggesting that you change that. You change your vocabulary and you change what you say to yourself at all times. And not only what you speak out loud, but what you say to yourself internally and mentally. An example of that would be you're walking along and you stumble and you're instantly trying to think, oh, well, that was stop. And tell yourself, stop. Tell your brain, stop. Out. Not with that thought. I am sure-footed, and I know I can walk with sure feet. And that's important to do both. It's important to say, stop. It's important to say, I am sure-footed, and it's important to say, I know I am sure-footed. You are addressing everything physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually that way. And it does make a difference. Your mind doesn't know what it doesn't know. It knows what you tell it. So tell it that you are what you desire to be. Declare what it is you desire. And say, I know I am. I did kind of skip over a little bit about the humanistic view and the spiritual view and how our vocabulary and the words we use and the words we choose apply to that. When we talk in terms of the humanistic view, we're talking about the physical, as Hammond Bay says. We're talking about the physical and the mental aspects. When we talk about the spiritual view, then we talk about the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect, and we bring them all together, and we examine things from each of those four aspects. When we talk in terms of the human view and humanistic view, we're looking at things from a dual point of view. Then we're talking about duality. Have you ever heard that before? Have you ever thought in those terms, humanistic and duality? There's positive and there's negative. There is right and there's wrong. And that's what we do as human beings. We think dually. We think of one or the other. If we think in terms of the spiritual perspective, then we're thinking in terms of balance. Okay, there isn't one or the other, there isn't a right, there isn't a wrong, there isn't a judgment. There's only balance. And that would be the balance between the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And that is where we desire to be, is right in the middle. In the middle of the human view and the spiritual view, and in the middle of the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And that applies to our vocabulary and the words that we use and the words that we choose. We've already talked about the physical and the mental aspects and a little bit about the emotional and how our words can draw out our emotions. And that leaves the spiritual aspect, right? Just to sum it up and make sure we're all on the same page, what would you say an example of the power and the energy of our words as far as the physical aspect. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, if you drop the F-bomb on somebody, you're gonna get their attention. I
Yes.
don't care if you say it with a smile.
Yes.
If you're real nice,
Mhm.
that word carries a very powerful
Mhm.
vibration
Yes.
and everything that goes with it. Is an example of that word.
There's also a shock factor with that. So yeah, but it's energy.
Yeah,
It's
as you spoke last time.
it's energy, and it's
Yeah.
all coming down to that. What energy does it have? Does it have a positive or a negative effect in the energy on you? And we don't always think in terms of the effect that our words have. Yeah.
Another example, when you say, I'm sick of such and such, gives you a happy name.
Yes. You're bringing that to you, and you're bringing that energy to you. And whether you are or you aren't, you're bringing that energy to you. And do you choose to allow, accept, understand, and acknowledge that energy? And we do have a choice. We have a choice as to whether or not we can let that energy in. And we can have a choice as to whether or not we give that energy out. I mentioned before about the spiritual aspect of words and the energy and the power from a spiritual perspective. What I have come to understand and come to believe is that we have the ability to reframe the energy within the words that we use. And I use the word reframe, and that comes from speaking with somebody that is well versed in hypnosis. Has anybody been hypnotized? What type of experience did you have from being hypnotized? Did anybody want to share why they might have been Save that for later. What happens when you're hypnotized? Why do you go to see a hypnotist or hypnotherapist?
Isn't hypnosis a form of meditation?
No, actually it is very different. Hypnosis is used to reframe and change an action. And you use very specific words in order to bring about a specific change. And it's considered reframing. And what I have been doing with the backronyms, and what came to me just fairly recently with the backronyms, is they are used to reframe the energy that is blocking your ascension energy. That's what the backronyms are. And the backronyms, now maybe some of you aren't familiar with the backronyms, but backronyms are when you take a word and you create a phrase using using letters from the actual word. Does that make sense? That didn't come out very well. Where an acronym, you say NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and you pronounce it as NATO. Instead, with the backronyms, you take the letters of the word and you assign a word to it, and those words create a phrase. Okay, so it's a little bit different, but it is an actual word called a backronym. Okay, so for instance, we have within the Coptic program, right on the front, there's Coptic and that transformation. Okay, so that comes out to be a backronym. So what I've been doing is creating backronyms from different words and creating phrases that help to transform the energy or reframe the energy that is within specific words or any word. You can do that. All right. So it goes along with the thought of hypnosis where you actually reframe, you take a word and you reframe the word and the thoughts and the feelings and the energy that you associate with that word. I gave you a list here. For instance, if we're saying that words are energy and power. So words, for instance, a backronym could be a wonderful opportunity to receive divine synchronicity. So each time we say a word, we can think that it is an opportunity to receive divine synchronicity. Had you ever thought about that before? With what you say and what someone says to you, it is an opportunity to receive divine synchronicity. That is an example of reframing. Energy. What is energy? Yes.
I just want to go back to synchronicity.
Yes.
Synchronicity is when thoughts are integrated, right, from deep listening to each other,
Yes.
so that things become very harmonious.
Yes. That would be an example or an explanation.
What that phrase
Yes.
would be. It has to happen between two people, not just one.
For me, what synchronicity is God's grace. So when we experience God's grace, that to me is synchronicity. And synchronicity can happen between two people. I mean, for instance, what Chad, in giving his lesson today, what he chose as his lesson, and then what I was saying, that was synchronicity, that was God's grace showing up between the two of us. So that to me is what I consider synchronicity
In other
to
words,
be.
you become integrated with God's grace.
Yes.
I mean, it takes movement to
Yes.
become synchronous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Movement and divine energy
Right.
and power and divine vibration.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Energy comes out to be experience never-ending enlightenment to resolve grand yearnings. And I like that in regard to what Chad had said with the Hamid Bey lesson. He talked about illumination, which to me illumination and enlightenment are the same thing. Talked about resolution and resolving things. And so the word energy has a vibration that includes enlightenment and resolution. And when you look at that word in those terms, then you're reframing that word and using it as something spiritual and transforming it into something positive. The third one here is power. And that comes out to be potential opportunity to wonderfully experience resolution. So to me, they are all tied together. And that's what my point is that our words have energy, and they have power, and they have a vibration. and they are all tied together. And they are all used how we choose to use them. We can use them from a humanistic viewpoint, or we can use them from a spiritual viewpoint, and that is extremely powerful to do that. And that is right at our fingertips, or right at the tip of our tongue. I have a couple of examples of how powerful our words are. The other day, a friend of mine called me up and we were talking. He happened to tell me a little bit about his current situation. He's a young gentleman with 2 young kids, but he'd just gotten done and completed his master's degree in business, got his MBA. And of course, now he's at that crossroads where he needs to get a job, and he's happy and excited, but he didn't quite know what job he was going to go for. And he did come across an opportunity that was a little bit different than what he had thought he was going to do, and he was somewhat excited about it. But he did finally make the decision to go for it. And he called me up and he says, well, I hope I can do this. I hope I can do that. I hope it turns out well. I hope it's the right thing to do. And I said, wait a minute. Whoa, wait, just a minute. You don't hope anything. You know what it is you want and go for it. Don't hope anything. What is within the word hope? There's doubt. Yes. Right? You're saying to yourself, and you're saying to the universe, and you're saying to the divine spirit that there's doubt within your own mind. So what happens when there's doubt? And it's your ego that is bringing the doubt forward. It's your ego that is trying to protect you and bring up the doubt and say, well, I don't know about this. What happens when you experience doubt?
It's kind of wishy-washy, the message you're sending out everything. The message you're sending out to everything. The message that you're sending out to the divine spirit of God and the divine energy. The message that you're sending out to the spiritual world and the spiritual beings that are helping you and guiding you and bringing you along. The message that you're sending out to the universe is wishy-washy, and they don't know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, they don't know what to do. I mean, they're eager to help and they want to. But in my experience, when you're wishy-washy, what happens is that then the ego, the divine energy of God, the universe, and the spirit world come together and they say, we know we provide everything that they want, that they need, and that they desire. But if they don't see it that way, then we'll give them a challenge that allows them to see. Yep. Had that happen. I've had.
There's one person on the planet
That hasn't had happen. But we don't always realize and recognize it. For years, I never did. It isn't until just recently that I've realized that, I'm being wishy-washy and I'm putting out there by my words and what I say and by what I think and what I do. I'm being wishy-washy and God, yes, it is a form of sabotage. Yep. So change your vocabulary, change your mindset, change your life by, instead of saying hope, I told my friend, take out the word hope. You know what it is you're going to do. You've made that decision, and you made the decision for the right reason. He wanted to help people and to go into people's homes and to help people and help families and help friends. And I said, that's a grand and noble purpose. Go with that and always remember that and say, that's what it is you are going to do. Say, I am helpful. I am important within people's lives. I am that, and I am going to do that. And I know that that's what I'm going to do. Just within that exercise, there are two things happening. There was my inspiring him with my words and what I said and encouraging him to do that. But there was also on a spiritual level that knowledge and that wisdom coming forth, and then him taking it and using it and making a change within his vocabulary and making a change within his life. The other story and example that I have, I spoke to a gentleman, and he is the one that brought up to me reframing with hypnosis. And I was telling him about the backronyms and creating a backronym and how that helps to reframe things. And his challenge was to breathe while he was exercising. And this is not a spiritual friend, not somebody that I met here through the Coptics or any of that. I just happened to be an acquaintance. And it was interesting to me that he was exercising on a regular basis and doing many different things to build his body physically, mentally, emotionally, and somewhat spiritually, even though he didn't recognize it as such until I told him, well, that's a spiritual point of view. He said, oh, yeah, you're right, okay. But he had been told by 3 different people that he didn't breathe when he was exercising. And we all know how important the breath is in bringing in, prana and the energy within our breath and expanding our lungs and how important that is to breathe. And 3 people had told him, Edwin, breathe. You're exercising. Breathe. You need to do this. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And he just wasn't able to do that. So I said, okay, well, it's interesting to me. Let's create a backronym out of breathe. And what came out was begin releasing energy and allow the transformation of the highest energy. Now, in my mind, it wasn't quite as smooth as some of the backronyms that I create, but it had meaning to him, and what came out was the transformation. What is it that happens when you breathe? Right? You're bringing air in, you're exhaling, you're expanding your lungs, all of that stuff. But also, what was he doing when he was exercising? He was attempting to transform his body and transform things. So what was neat about it and what came out in my mind was transformation was the biggest thing. But it extremely resonated with him. He put it onto his phone and he looks at it before he goes in to exercise, as well as a few other things. And then he said that it made a big difference in his life. It changed how he was able to breathe while he was exercising, and he was able to actually do what it is he desired to do. And I found it with my own self, too, that there is transformation within those words. So creating, if there's something that you have a challenge with, creating a backronym and using it to reframe and use that new energy within your words can be very powerful. From a spiritual standpoint, we've talked about the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual energy within words that we use and that we choose. What I'm suggesting is that you physically speak your truth. Mentally, that you say what you feel and how you feel. Emotionally, that you reframe. Emotionally, that you say what you feel. And physically, mentally, sure, emotionally. There were 4 of them. And let's start over. Physically, speak your truth. Mentally, reframe your thoughts. Emotionally, say what you feel. And spiritually, declare your desires. When you do all of those things and you change your vocabulary, you change your mindset, and you change your life. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks for listening. Michael?
Isn't that time?
It is. It's that time. It's that time. You seem a little nervous. You don't have any doubt, do you?
I'm not gonna use the word hope.
And there's no doubt. This is all for fun.
Amy gave me a little stretch this week, and
Yes.
looked at the program at supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and I'm a little. So.
And I'm
It's our
gonna.
best diction, and if you have an English accent you'd like to add, please do.
Amy,
Yeah.
I don't know if
And-
the mic turned off?
Yeah, and I'm gonna add that we turn the mic off because it's a stretch for me to sing.
We'll do our best with our diction, and you can too.
So,
Go ahead.
yes, be sure and join in on the chorus. So feel free. We could actually, should we have them stand?
Please stand. you know,
Yeah,
and you can
please
bounce like
stand
the chimney sweep and
Join
twirl around like Mary Poppins.
Join in on the chorus. Stay upright.
Stay upright if you
Yes,
can.
sure-footed.
So we'll go through the chorus and we'll practice it with the Diddle and Amy and I are going to sing the verses too. So, but let's go through it a couple times if you could. Yeah. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though it sounded it's something quite atrocious. If you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Um-diddle-diddle-dum-diddle-lay, 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 um-diddle-diddle-dum-diddle-lay. Let's sing the whole thing through again. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious. If you say it loud enough, it's always so precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Um-diddle-diddle-dum-diddle-lay, 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 um-diddle-diddle-dum-diddle-lay. So what would a background be? Um-diddle-diddle.
It's in here.
All right, so are you ready?
I am.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're listening.
Where are we starting?
We're starting in the beginning.
Okay.
Again. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious. If you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Um-diddle-diddle-dum-diddle-lay, 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 um-diddle-diddle-dum-diddle-lay. Because I was afraid to speak when I was just a lad. Me father gave me a nose and tweak and told me I was bad. But then one day I heard a word that saved me, he knows. Our biggest word
He traveled all around the world and everywhere he went. He used his word and I would say there goes a clever gent.
When Dukes and Maharajas pass the time of day with me, I say a special word and then they ask me out to tea. Oh, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Something quite atrocious. You can say it loud enough, it's always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Now you can say it backwards, which is dosis ali expilistic fragicalirupus. But that's
Going a bit too far, don't you think?
I want to do that one more time.
That is a backward
That is a Okay, now you can say it backwards, which is dosis ali expilistic fragicalirupus. But that's going a bit too far, don't you think?
So with the cat,
There's no need for dismay. Just summon up this word and you've got a lot to say. But better use it carefully
or it could change your life.
For example.
Yes. One night I said to me girl,
And now here comes my wife. Oh,
and a lovely thing she is too. She's
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. 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 Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
all right. Who would have thought?
Thank you, everyone.
Great job.
How about that?
How about that, everyone? Please be seated. Yeah, well, something new and different. So thank you, Amy, and thank you for the talk, and thank you for putting good thoughts in our mouths to live upon each and every day. And as the sun shines and the birds are singing, and the grass does need mowing at the Coptic Center, and landscaping too. So and, soon enough, we'll be having the air conditioning on as well. So all that said, your tithings are a blessing and a gift to us, and it's the point time for our love offering. So if you could give with your hearts, open your hearts, wallets, and purses to help us mow the grass and keep the air conditioning cool in the summertime. We do value that. And also bring in guests too, like we had with Rainbow Eagle?
Dancing.
I just went blank. Yeah, the guest speakers. That's what I'm trying to say. That we often bring to the center too. So your tithings all go to that and keep this wonderful place of light and love afloat, and more learning on the way too. So if you could hold your tithings close to your heart, and let us share that love offering affirmation that is in your program. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am thankful. And thankful for Linda's music as we do Pass the Basket tonight. Douglas Bluefeather, that's the gentleman's name. It was with us last week.
Yeah.
I called him Golden Eagle for some reason. The season of spring and renewed thoughts and words are upon us, as we learned tonight with Amy, and a little chance to spread our wings and sing and think of how we can use our words to transform the world one person at a time, is what we're focused on the lessons of tonight with Master Ahmed Bey's teachings and Amy's. How can we go about our world and make it a better place each and every day with not only our words, but the thoughts, our own self-dialogue, to be easy and light upon ourselves, not so critical. Focus upon the light instead of the dark. To move towards ascension, move towards renewal, and many gifts that are upon us if we just open our eyes a little bit wider. Let's focus on the changes within us and outside of us as well, each and every day. May these gifts help the Coptic Center grow. May the energy of the words of prayer and our own special intentions within each and every one of us tonight grow this special place of light, special place of peace that Master Ahmed Bey intended it to be, and Master Stanley and John and those that walk the Coptic path with love and light. And this we pray in oneness on this night and always. Amen. Blessings. And blessings of peace within each and every one of you. Next week we do have our New Moon Meditation and Healing Service for Mother's Day weekend, and that'll be followed by our workshop weekend with Michael Joy and more peace around the peace pool for that chance to experience that. That's our topic. In a couple of weeks as we go through the month of May here at the Coptic Center. So sweets and treats in the meet and greet room, and this is how we'll close tonight. So thank you for being here. God bless you.
I want to say